Hello everyone and welcome to Innovation Tech Community. So the sixth week of Microsoft AIS. Today we are demonstrating something at GenAI concepts and today our expert speaker Yug Malik, the Associate Director of United Health Group, and he's an AI and ML digital transformation expert as well. So if you need anything help on AI and ML and GenAI and agents, whatever it may be. So during this session, feel free to you know ask your queries during the session. Without delay, I'm handing over to Yuk Malik and over to you. Yeah, I'm sharing your screen as well. Yeah,
Sure. Thanks, Pratap. Let me know once my screen is visible. I can get going then.
sorry, it is visible. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Uh, hey, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Yug Malik. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, and it's been quite some time that I've been working with uh, United Health Group, which is where fortunate enough to be working in the intersection of healthcare and AI. And in today's session, we'll be talking majorly about what is generative AI and how we build responsive intelligence when we talk about how the enterprises using generative AI or AI in general, and what they take into account while building the responsive intelligence or any applications for their needs. So in today's workshop or session, we'll mostly covering these four areas: understanding what is generative AI, and how we move from generative AI to building something responsible intelligence which can be worked or which is where the enterprise work around. And one of the use case that I've thought of, which we can navigate through that as well, which is the, again, real time, very real time enterprise use case we can have a demo on today. And then we'll talk about very important topic of how the governance and responsible use of AI we can bring on the table while implementing any of the AI component or any of the AI applications into the premises, right? So with that, let's touch base on what is generative AI, right? In simple terms, generative AI is the AI which generates content, right? The content can be your image, the content can be your code if at all you are a developer, or any text format, any image format, or anything related to the video also, right? So anything you're generating through a form of AI is called as generative AI, and that's very simple in the layman's term. Okay. Now, whenever you're talking about generating content, right, the content is being generated primarily from two different, either of these models. We call it as models. The model can be large language model that you see in the left, and the other can be small language model. Now, what's the difference between large language model versus small language model, right? So large language model typically trained on large amount of data set, right? Excuse me, the way that we are using, for example, chat gpt, right? So currently it is 5.1 gpt 5.1 or 5.2. So it is being trained on a huge amount of data, and it is being trained on multiple parameters, and typically the parameters are from 100 billions and above, right? So that's the scope that they take into account, and it is very much costly, and hence it is able to provide all the information, the general purpose information, right? Anything that in today's world everyone has in the fingertip, they open the chat gpt, they ask anything and everything, right? So that's typically the large language model trained on a very large amount of data. But in the other side, the small language model, it is trained on a specific set of data, because that has been created to solve or answer the queries on a specific domain or a specific area on which it has been trained on. And in this case, they take the scope of the parameter training somewhere between 1 billion to 8 billion. right? So that's the scope that they keep while training the model. So that's the fair at a very high level. What's the difference between large language model and the small language model? Okay. Now in both these models, when we interact this with these models, typical there are three steps, right? You give the input. So input is nothing but the prompt we call. So anything you're writing, even if today you are opening the chat GPT, you're writing something on it, asking something to the chat GPT, that we call it as a prompt. Any input given to the to the LLM is a prompt. Okay. So once you give the prompt, the generative AI model will process the output, and then it will give you the output. Process the input, and it will give you the output. So this is the typical three-step process that it works on. Now, as we said, the input is what we call it as a prompt. So now these prompts are typically uh, divided into four different areas. One is the system prompt, the other is the user prompt, then the output, which is the response that we get, and and the history part of it. Now let's take an example. If I give down below, if you see, if I give this prompt to ChatGPT today, saying that, hey, you are an AI assistant specialized in extracting structured data from the invoice, and extract only the requested fields such as invoice number, date, and company name. If this is the prompt, then what is the system prompt from this? System prompt is the one that you see on the blue line. That is nothing but you're providing a constraint or guideline to the model. You're saying that, hey, you are an AI assistant. You're specialized in extracting the structured data. You're providing the guidance or guidelines to the model. You're providing input to the model in terms of guidance. Now, second part is where you are saying that, hey, extract only the specific information from the invoice, such as invoice number, date, company name, right? So that is the user prompt, wherein you are asking questions or providing some instruction how it should be processed. So that typically is the user prompt. Now, what is the response? Anything that you're getting back from the AI or the generative AI is the output, and that we call either completion or response. History is typically any iteration or any further question that we are asking, right? Say, for example, in this context, I might ask, hey, give me all the details, invoice, or the details of what is there in the invoice. If I give that as the next set of prompt, what it does, it takes the existing prompt, which we keyed in first, and then it appends the new one, and then accordingly it provides us the answer. So the previous one, since it is taking into the context while requesting the new input, so that part is where we call it as a history. So typically these four areas you need to understand when you are talking about prompt. Okay. Now that we know what is a prompt, what is a generative AI, what are the models, now this is where I want to touch upon and tell that there are hundreds of models out in the market, right? It is very much important for anyone who is using these models, right? To understand first why these models are, what is the intention of these models, why these models are being created. Now depending on that, you can better align these models to your your work, your requirement, or any use case that you are going to create or develop on. Otherwise there will be a mismatch in the expected outcome, because all the models are not designed to provide the outcome that you intended for. Say for example, as I stated before, GPT-5, GPT 5.1, now I think 5.2, those are pretty much large language models can give you answer on the everyday task, right? So you can use that if at all you are using for everyday task. If you are looking for any deep reasoning, multi-step reasoning, complex analysis, so that's where this OpenAI O1 model comes pretty much handy. Now, if at all you are looking for creating any image on certain instances, so DALI is the model that you can use for creating the images, right? Similarly, for any enterprise coding purposes or any debugging, so that is Gemini 2.5 Pro you can use. Document summarization, complex analysis, so Claude 3.5 Sonnet, that works pretty much good. Now, this is not a very comprehensive list, but this is where I wanted to emphasize on understanding the toolkit that you have and what tool to be used for what purpose. Okay. All right. Now, how we shift our focus from generative AI and using that, how do we build the responsive intelligence, right? Now, when we talk about generative AI, primarily we talk about generating the content, right? And typically we use chat-based interaction with the GPTs or LLMs to get our answers or get our output, and these are stateless because multiple session. I mean, if you have typed something in the morning, you might have got response, but in the evening for a new session, when you type in and open your chat gpt, it may not give you the output with the same context that you had asked in the morning. So it's stateless, it doesn't remember the context or the state every time, right? And of course it is human prompted. Every time you have to get into the app, open it and prompt whatever you want, right? Now in the other side, when we talk about creating enterprise label responsive intelligence, we look for, if at all we are using generative AI, what is the outcome that it will bring on the table, right? What are the key metrics that we need to look for, right? And again, where we use it, typically we use it in the workflow. Every company will have multiple workflows within it. Finance will have one workflow for loan processing. Now within that loan processing, there might be one step where this generative AI will come handy. Integration can happen for those one or two steps, not the entire step. So that's where we call it as a work based or process integrated, right? So we integrate this gender into a process. And when we integrate, it retains the context. Every interaction we are having today, tomorrow, or anytime, we have to ensure that it stores the context. It retains the state across the interactions that we are having, right? And human in the loop lately. That's very much important because any implementation that we do with respect to generative AI, we have to have human in the loop. Mostly, at least that should be the initial practice to start with, uh, so that we are not letting the decision handed over to AI. We need to have AI onboarded to provide the data driven insights, right? To fasten our processes, but not take decisions. So that's where human in the loop plays very much a key uh, part to the process, which actually takes the decision, not letting the AI take the decision, right? All right, so let's take an example or a problem or a challenge that we have been seeing across the industry. Now, industries like insurance, banking, healthcare, legal, they are document heavy industry. Any process you pick from all these industries, there will be definitely, document or documentations and heavy documentations in their processes. Say, for example, insurance, right? Lot of claims are being processed, and every claim you pick, every any claim, it will have multiple documents attached to it, right? And when I say multiple documents, the documents is very much unstructured, right? It can have PDF, it can have image, it can have any format of documents of any type. And same goes for banking and finance. You might have gone for processing the loans, right? And you might be knowing how many documents you normally go through signing and processing, right? And the other side, the bank receives those documents, they enter those details into the ERPs, and then they process it, right? So a lot of documentation happens from that front, either from the customer or from the service provider front, right? Healthcare, likewise, patient forms, lab reports, discharge summaries, a lot of documents come into play while we are into a healthcare process, and legal, not to say everything comes down to documentation for legal as well, right? Now, if you see here, when there is a document, we have seen the process becomes little slower. That is where the bottleneck, the operational bottleneck comes into picture, right? And let's see the cost of efficiency that we have seen across the industry, and this number that we know you are seeing on the screen. All this industry, they are processing millions of records, millions of transactions and documents every day, wherein 5 to 7 minutes per document is the average handling time. Anyone who is working into this industry or the process, this is the average handling time of processing those documents, and that is alluding to 20 to 30% of productivity loss, which is really really huge in terms of today's context, right? Now let's see how do we solve for it, since we know now that there are challenges where there are documents available in the industries like insurance, finance, and so on and so forth. And the statistics that you saw, 20 to 30% of the processes, that's a productivity loss is happening. Now let's get into the use case, a very real time use case, and which is where you are having the document in the play, right? And take an example of finance, right? You are receiving loan documents, and typical those documents are multi-page documents, right? And the bank, once it receives this document, right, then what it does, it opens, somebody manually opening the document, reading page by page, right, making sure everything is correct, right? And it is also identifying the key fields, because not every field is needed to be validated, right? Only the key field, maybe is the pan number correct, is the other number correct, the signature is correct, or the name, address, and all the banking related numbers are correct or not, is what they look for it, and they look for it manually, right? Once everything looks good, then they feed this information either into an Excel or directly into an ERP. Okay. Now once they feed those information into ERP, then the data will flow into their respective downstream applications. So the focus area is where they're spending more time manually, right? Now consider if the document is more than 50 pages and you just need to extract only 8 to 10 fields to validate that document or transaction. And that's where the bottleneck is coming, where they're spending more than 5 to 7 minutes, sometimes 15 minutes on each document. Now what if there is a generative AI pipeline we build, wherein we'll say that, hey, you give us the document, you feed this document to the tool, and the document will extract the key relevant information that you look for, right? And then you can validate the extracted information only. You didn't have to run through the document, pull those information. Rather, let the Gen AI or AI, does it for you, and you just have to validate. And this is where the human in the loop comes into picture. You just have to validate if the number or any information that you want has been extracted correctly, and if it is, then you have to click on save so that the validated information can be used in the downstream applications, right? Now if it is not correct, some, because none of the extraction happens 100%, right? So accuracy, if it is more than 90%, that's the industry trend. We are seeing more than 90% as well, but nevertheless it is 100%, right? So if it is not right, then there'll be an option to make it right, and that's where the human in the loop very much comes handy to correct those information. And that information which is corrected, that will be taken as a feedback loop for the model training. Okay, so human in the loop, that's a very important step for any process implementation for the feedback, and which will be used for fine tuning this generative AI model, which is primarily extracting the information, right? Now let's see the statistics before I get into the demo. Typical, if I take an example, or assuming that a company is processing 100K documents per day, and they are burning approximately 5 minutes per uh, document in processing it, and this is the manual intervention part I'm talking about. And the FT cost, the employee who is doing that, his per hour cost is $25 per hour. And with generative AI, if at all I'm able to save 3 minutes per transaction, given that we are processing 100K documents per year, if you put into a calculation in mathematics, then you will see you can save 125K per annum. That's huge, right? And think about, this is just a number that I've taken, which just to give you a perspective of how generative AI can save your cost, increase the efficiency, and increase the overall productivity of the employee. But given that you're processing more than 100K, and some industry they're processing millions of records, millions and millions of records, every year. And if you smartly use AI or generative AI into the processes, then that's where the real value you can reap. Okay. Now with that, let's get into a real time demo. uh, Pratap, if you can confirm my screen is visible where
Yes, yes. Yeah.
it is. All
Study.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is a simple document intelligence platform, right? Aligning or aligned to what we discussed now. Now you see here there is a upload button which I'll be using to upload a document, and that document will be pertaining to finance. Now the document has information like what is the financial year, what is the currency, what is the revenue from operation that we are getting, right? What is the other income, right? What is the total income? So basically this is the document. When I say finance, it is pertaining to a company publishing the financial statement at the end of the year. Will definitely have all this information or content in that document, right? So we need maybe 8, 10 details to say, or details to take action further, right? Whatever that you see here. Now, let me upload that document here. All right. And I will click on extract. Now, while it is extracting this information, if you see, this is of 55 pages, right? And this document is publicly available document. I just took this for demonstrating purposes. Now it has all the financial details in the tabular format. Some are in the paragraphs or here and there in the document. And if someone has to manually go through this document to pull out this information that we need in the side, if you see, then it would have definitely taken more than 10 minutes, because these are number games, right? Any mismatch in the number might cost in the later point in time, and also it can trigger the compliance related or any other audit related issues, right? Now, once this extraction is done, if you see, it has extracted all the information. What is the financial year, what currency it has used, and then what is the revenue from the operation, right? What is the other income, and wherever it got those details, wherever it found in the document, it has pulled all this information here. Someone has to just quickly go through, manually review it, and if everything looks good, then has to click on save. And once it is saved, then that information can be used in the subsequent process. It might be feeding into an ERP, feeding into any other application, or for reporting purposes, or anything for that matter. But at least sanity check is done. Extraction happens seamlessly. It has been reviewed manually by the human agent, so it is all good, right? Now one additional feature that it has, right, again, through RAG, what is here is, let's say you have extracted all the information that is needed, but still you feel like, hey, I think there is one information I need to check, but that information sadly is not there in the left navigation. So that's where you can use this chatbot. Okay, you can ask for anything which is not already extracted. Let's say I'm just asking to summarize the document, so it is only giving information from this document, not anywhere else, right? If you want to have any specific questions asked, it can give you right here, right, without even spending more time manually again going through. Rather, with with a quick Q&A, you can get the relevant information as you needed. All right, so this was a quick demonstration of how enterprise is using or can use AI or generative AI into the processes. I'll go back to the slide. All right, so I think this might be helpful for people who are technically aligned. Uh, this is more of the architecture uh, of what you saw today, wherein the input can be received from any of these data sources, right? What we saw is where we are uploading manually those documents. Rather, the document can also be picked directly from any cloud storage or any shared services or any database, or through any existing enterprise applications or API. So it can be anything, from this or beyond, which if it is not listed. And once we get the document, the extraction layer will extract the content from the document, and it is storing in the vector database, right? And there is LLM layer which will extract the relevant information, and then it is storing in the other database where the analytical dashboard is linked. I haven't shown you the analytical dashboard. I can go back and show that as well. But you know the this data is also being displayed right here for the human in the loop. So this layer is the human in the loop, where we saw how the human agent can validate this information. Once it validate, it can have a Q&A through a chatbot that we saw. And if everything looks good, it can save the data in the system for the downstream application to use. Okay, so I'll just quickly again go back for the analytical dashboard. So this feature is very much useful to uh, it is more of useful to know what is the improvement area that you have for the model. What is the accuracy trend? It is giving all the details, right? The fields that we have, it is also telling you what is the confidence score in an average, right? Now some field might not have the expected confidence score, right? And that's where from this report that, hey, that field has to be fine tuned, the logic has to be recreated or topped up, right? So that our extraction happens seamlessly, right? And likewise, there can be other matrices. I mean, this dashboard is just for to show you how it can add value for the continuous improvement of the product. But nevertheless, it can also get scaled for the leaders to have a look at, depending on the metrics that they want to track. Okay, so this sort of dashboard comes pretty handy in those front. All right, so I'll quickly move on to the last part of our talk today, uh, which is the AI governance framework. And this is very, very important when we talk about developing anything for the enterprise. Uh, and in the recent report, when I was going through, 90%, in fact, more than 90% of the AI initiatives are getting failed. And the reason was those companies, those enterprises, or we are not using the right governance framework while implementing AI into the enterprise. Okay, now this is a broad area where we have to ensure that we have governance around. One is the data governance, right, where we have to ensure what quality of data we are using for training our models, right? What nature of documents that we are giving for training our LLMs or SLMs or whatever you know we are using in our context. Now, data, whether it has any sensitive data, maybe insurance, healthcare, they are very much into PI masking and all, right? So we have to ensure that those information are not getting leaked. It is being masked while interacting with LLMs. And role-based access. Any form of data has to have role-based access, because only few set of people or right set of people has to have access to the right set of data, right? And that can, if that is not there, that can lead to compliance related issues, governance related issues, and so on and so forth, right? You have to also ensure the archival process of all the data that we are using in the process of implementation. Second is the model training or the model governance, wherein we have to ensure the accuracy and the performance of the model. So you have to keep evaluating it, keep improving it, keep fine tuning it, right? And ensuring that there is no hallucination, or if it is there, the percentage is very, very, very low, so that it builds the confidence for the leaders to approve any request pertaining to the implementation, right? Third is the biasness, of course. It's the response that we get from the AI should not be biased. It should be well within the range of whatever, depending on whatever industry that we are working. Uh, it should be within that parameter, or if it is zero, nothing like it. Define the guardrails, of course. Anything that we are deploying, we have to have all the security measures and guardrails around it. Model versioning, A/B testing, then scaling or expanding, into the areas within the org, right? So that's where we have to ensure the model governance is well in place in any organization who is onboarding AI into theirs. Third is the process governance, right? We talked about the human in the loop, right? So that should be part of the process for implementing. Without human in the loop, we do not know what is happening. We cannot know even what are the critical issues that we are encountering, right? So we should have the approval or escalation paths as well, logging, audit trails, tracing. That's something we need to have it as part of our implementation to know what is the behavior of our implementation, meaning AI touch points, and so on and so forth. Risk and compliance, of course, depending on the industry that you guys are in, there will be some standards defined, right? So we have to be abide with that. And any harmful output, because controlled output, or we have to ensure that any response that we are getting, it has to go through a safety net or a safety check, right? So that doesn't impact any outcome, right? Then the vendor API compliance, incident response protocol. So those are the areas where we have to really focus from the risk and compliance standpoint. And again, it depends on what industry you are in, what kind of or nature of use case that you're picking up. You have to ensure those are taken care, right? So AI governance framework, every company has to have, every implementation, if at all you are from a service provider perspective, any implementation that you are doing for those set of industries, you have to make sure you have this in place even before going for the implementation, right? So with that, I end my talk, and I will be open for any questions. And of course, people can connect with me over the LinkedIn, but we can have any questions if anyone has. Pratap, over to you.
Yeah, like as you mentioned, so Dali is going to retire next month of before 15th. So as you're aware of it,
Mm.
so I mean, like every LLM company is now providing all image generation models L- like that. For example, let's say some people are really suffer about the threatening with the some sexual harassment photos and some I mean, like this AI is, far more better. Like, it is like, something beyond. Like whenever it is generating some unusual photos that we are not, right. So how you can state that, like, how we can encounter these data breaches, like without, our effort under, like, what my question is to be,
How
we
to
have
combat that?
all AI, I mean, AI generated image models are there, like whether it is a DALI or Copilot models or group models, whatever it may be.
Mm.
So how can we, I mean, encounter these things? Like, for example, if we are threatening something about, most of the people see, like, they're worrying about, so my data will be data breach will be happening. So how we can encounter these things,
Okay, are you talking about the data breach that the enterprise is concerned about,
Yeah,
or is that what your question is?
yeah.
Okay, so I think the data breach is very very critical for any enterprise, specifically the companies who are well regulated, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm,
Healthcare, insurance, finance, right?
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm,
that's where the governance layer that I talked about, it is all, the sole responsibility of the governance team to ensure that they have the process in place, they have the right governance in place in terms of data model and whatever that we talked about. And
yeah,
implementation, that we it has to go through that team, right?
yeah,
It has to
yeah.
be evaluated through that team, to ensure there is no data leakage, to ensure that the output is not impacting or harming any sentiments or any
Mm,
content, for that matter, that you said some images are being generated which are impacting the society as well, right?
yeah, yeah.
So we have to
That makes.
ensure that we have to have the guardrails. Now,
Mhm,
specifically, if I have to highlight any model, we have to have a content shielding. We call it a prompt shielding, right? We
okay.
can't put the prompt whatever we want. If at all I have access to the model, right?
Mm,
Even if I'm putting, hey, generate XYZ content, which is
mhm,
I know for sure it is going to impact or it is harmful for the society, the
yeah,
LLM will knock it off, saying that, hey, I do not entertain, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
that is where
yeah.
the prompt shielding comes into picture. That's the input part of it. Similarly, the output. So we have to check how the output is being generated, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
all those test cases has to be tested before even we get into production, for any enterprise to not land into cases like this, or any databases that which might be a potential threat for the company.
Yeah, and one more thing, I have one query personally, like, so we are last a couple of months onwards, I'm using document intelligence. Yeah, document intelligence, like now we call it as content understanding. So this content understanding is really good. So when it comes, I mean, comes into the Power Platform, so we do have prompts, prompts that is like Power Platform prompts. It will extract the information,
Mm,
and there is some like, restriction. So this Azure, like, Power Platform, Power Automate prompts, it will restrict at single time we can extract only 50 pages of data.
mm, mm.
Okay, so is it similar, it is same as in Azure content understanding as well, like it is restricted to 50 pages, or like it is more than 50 pages?
No, it is more than 50 pages. We have tried with more than 150 pages of data, right?
Okay, yeah.
And content understanding is just part of it, right?
Mm, mm,
Now, depending on the use case, you
mhm,
know what is the nature of input that I'm going to get. Either
mm,
is it a PDF as an input, or an image as an input, or handwritten as an input, right? Now,
yeah,
depending on that input, you have to build your solution.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
Azure Document Intelligence Package,
Mm-hmm.
it has OCR, it has
Yeah,
layout, it has inbuilt models, right?
rebuild model. Yeah,
It has also the custom models.
custom models. Yeah.
So depending on the input, you have to use these models from the
Mm,
existing portfolio, or a catalog of the models, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
To solve that particular use case.
Yeah,
right?
makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, like, why I'm asking, like, one of the person and sitting beside me is asking that question, like,
Okay.
so ask me, yeah. So I know this answer. Like, I just want to recheck with you. So, like earlier, we used to call it a document in studio. So it does have some instructions, but once they turn to content understanding, so even we tried, so like, so we want to extract some medical information. So it is having like, it will be like handwritten notes as well. Like the AI has to understand, it has to give the accurate information out of it. And the
Mm.
time definitely we are using, so this Power Automate prompts doesn't give the proper response because like they have some restrictions. So on the
Right.
time we tried with some HTTP trigger, and we call the go document intelligence, I mean this content understanding, where we build the analyze build, like
Mm.
build analyzers and all. So we just
Mm.
call that models, like, so as you mentioned, we do have all the pre-built models, and as well as custom models as well. So we have to train and we have to use it for ourselves as well. Yeah,
Absolutely.
it was really nice, like what you have built, the what you have shown, the entire vision about the beyond the GenAI, like how we are going to use this small language models and as well as the large language models. So what is the difference, and how, where we are using, what is our business requirement, how we are getting this better response out of it. Yeah, it is really nice session, Malik sir. Like, so we are really looking forward for one more session with you very soon. So thank you so much, and it was really nice session.
Thank you, Pratap. Really nice to be here and talk to people. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
yeah, I'm ending the session stream.